This is the registered 0.5 of an hour that is on the new tachometer in its. And this is a beautiful piece. It has this is a round glass. I mean, it has it's a bubble, which is so cool. The other one was just a flat glass. It has 5.5 of an hour. The issue here is that there was no, the instructions to this is very poor. It explains nothing about the time logging circuit. This is the old tachometer, and this is a little mechanical hour meter. And this is the 10th, and this is where I got the wrong idea. A bad paradigm is what this is. I was expecting something else. This is every second, and I do mean white to black, tick, tick, tick. And while this was operating, the gauge, this voltage gauge, would jump. So there was this annoying sort of noise all the time that I had the old tach in this, old tachometer. And this is just exactly how the old tach looked. This can be, I will space this better. This is just hand fitted in here. I will, because I see one side right here is just a little thinner. It's pretty close, but it can be put in there, so it's perfect. It's just that this needs to be painted either absolute like chromium or black. I don't know. And then it just fits right around the bezel of the new meter, so it makes for a perfect fit here. And it's hard to do. It's hard to find a way to make these things fit. Oh, I want to show something right in here, but I have to want to show you something. Can you see this? This is a piece that I made by cutting off the end of a 3-inch fitting, and this fits right behind, but it's too big. It's perfect for the meter, but it's too big to fit between what used to be the light. It needs to be worked on and all that. And a person who has a lathe and a big piece of Delron plastic or something, they can make whatever they need. Or you could get it done at a machine shop. You might as well figure, oh, well, I need this to fit this. So you take it to a machine shop, yeah, they're going to charge you $150. That's what that's going to cost you to get a piece cut like that. But this won't let the meter go through, and it will not let the, see, the meter could be put through from this way and look like this. I just did not want that meter to stick up out of the dash. I wanted the old look. So this is a piece that's not going to be used on this. And I need to, another thing is that the manufacturer of the meter did not have any answers. The technical support. They were much more interested. They couldn't answer a question. What the answer was, and that meter needs you to put an analog signal to it, a waveform. I don't care if it's square or analog, crossing from peak to peak, to allow this thing to count. And then you need to run it for 6 minutes to get 1/10 of an hour. It's the 1/10 of an hour appeared to me all at once. I go, where in the world? Look at that. Because I finally ran an accumulative 6 minutes to get that. Now, I should have figured that, but I already had a bad concept of what this thing was going to do. I thought as soon as I powered it up, it is going to start timing. And there's a whole nother issue when I put the other meter in that I dealt with. I finally had to put these gauges, this gauge package here. The whole thing shuts off when the alternator stops. That's the only way I could get it so I could leave the ignition switch on and not have this confounded tach sitting there taking hours, which it did for several times, because there's a lot of time when you're sitting still that you want the fans to run. If you got the little diesel out there running, you need that switch on so you can power up the fans, which can be done differently, but whatever. This was not perfect at all, and this is such a innovation. I mean, I'm going to put these gauges back. These used to, anytime the key came on, now this was done down in the panel, anytime the key came on, power came to these, not using the circuit that basically says your alternator. I'm not sure. There's something down there. There's a supply that I attach these gauges to. That way, if the key or if the engine stopped and the alternator was not putting out juice, these gauges stop. Well, I want these gauges on. I want this gauge. I wanted it thin. I want this gauge to read the 14 volts that are in the battery, the 12 volts, or is it getting in the yellow or whatever, just because the key is on, not because I'm picking it up from the alternator. So this set of gauges needs to be put back on so it comes on when I turn the switch on. That way I could see exact 14 volts, and I can still see the temperature. You can see how this thing it's stopped right now at 190. Well, it's an analog type meter waiting for a linear signal it's getting a linear signal from the temperature sensing unit out there. And so when you turn off the engine, this no longer registers just because the key's on, and I really do want it to register when the key's on, so I would change that back. But I am so pleased with I'm pleased with the part. I'm sorry, and I'm answering right now. If you want to buy one of these meters, or you're looking to replace something in the bus, you'll have to make an adapter of some kind to get it in there, and that could be made at a machine shop. If you got a lathe, hey, you got it made in the shade. That will open up to a 3-inch piece of ABS. You can make whatever you want off the end of that ABS that will lock this gauge in whichever way you want to put it in, and to be beautiful. If you got any skill with the lathe at all, that can be done. So another thing is that I just looked at my bank account, and now I sort of feel bad because the people at this supplier at Amazon has already put the money back in my account for this one that he doesn't want to sell. So I sort of feel bad because I told them, and I'm just going to cancel it. I'm going to keep it. I mean, I've got like $60-70 in this whole project, and it was harder the last time when I wanted the tach. It was a place I think it's called United Speedometer in Riverside, California, was the company that sold me this. And sold me the original unit right here. This thing comes out here. Look at this analog thing. And it is it is just a magnetic field. It's not a stepping motor. It falls right back to zero in a way and then bounces around and it's still. This is absolutely an analog. And I think one of the resistors is probably cracked inside because it changes. Last time I was here, I thought, it has to be one of these little pots, these trim pots for calibrating it. See, here's one here, and it's got a drop on it. And I thought, well, maybe they're giving it. So I'm sure that I remember turning these and then putting them right back. This one here has, blob, don't go on it. So I did that and put it right back. And then this one I did put right back. And then I sat and tested it for, I thought, oh, well, that looks like I got it. And then when I crushed the basil back onto it, it started acting up again. I don't think, it's late enough that I wouldn't think that I have a leaky capacitor, but it definitely needs to, because it would change, I would be down here idling down in here and boom, all of a sudden it's up over 10 on the meter, and it was shifting between two different points. And I thought maybe it's a noisy resistor or something of that nature. I see there's a 7809, which is a voltage regulator. So it takes this and it wants to convert everything to 9 volts. It's just an analog meter, and it absolutely had to be calibrated. That means the springs and it all, when you'd put 30 in, then it had to be here and 0 had to be there, and in between has to hit the numbers all right. And it was not done precisely digitally like this. This is a much better, and the idea that it's sitting here silent and not this will tell you, you're walking into the bus and you go, oh, you know what, if you didn't have the fans running and you got the key on, your gauge will be lit, because this is going to be lit anytime the engine, now the way it is right now it won't be, because all the gauges are depending on the alternator to turn them on. And I want to change that back to the way it originally was before the hour meter, because I want these gauges, if the key's on, I want this gauge telling me what's going on, and the other two gauges too. So that's a change I have to make back. This has to come out for the paint job, and I would recommend this to anybody that's trying to tack up a 71 series Detroit. It will run off of your alternator. You have to get close. Something I noticed in the setup routine was I can do it with a stepping motor. Here's just a simple stepping motor that has all kinds of, you can find a voltage that's going back and forth. It is an alternator. It is a sine wave. Get 2 of them. And this works perfect too. If you can get a drive on it, your alternator will work perfect. But my point is that I put this in at 1 and 1, and then I saw right where the 30 is. 30's right out there. So I put this in, which has a lot more steps per rotation, and then I cut back. I put I increased the ratio. So this is the tooth count or the pulses in 1 revolution. And what's the problem here with my alternator? My alternator is gear driven, and I could come up with a number if I can count the if I could figure out the ratio of the inside ring gear and the alternator. How many times does it turn around for each revolution of the engine? Because it's definitely more. If I am turning, let me put it this way. If I'm turning 3,000 RPM, I am probably turning 9,000 or 10,000 alternator RPM. So I would have to calibrate, find the ratio, find the gear count between there and there for everything. How many for one rotation, how many times the alternator turn over? And put that number in, the ratio, and that would work too. So that may be the way some people go, because they don't have the Detroit, this upfront tack that I have on my engine for this. It's a long distance, and a lot of people used this. Another thing I did was I put a diode in here to try to square off the top of the wave, because I was my bad. I had a bad paradigm, a bad preconceived idea of how this circuit should work. I thought when you turned it on, it'll start counting hours like my old one did. And when I discovered that on the old one, I thought, man, that really sucks, because a lot of the hours that are on there were accumulated just running the air conditioning, the heater fan in Utah. So there's quite a few overnight stays while I leave that on, and I've got the little diesel running, keeping the water hot, and we're using electricity from there. So I just let the dash run, not really caring that I'm adding hours without the big engine running. I'm just running the Thermo King. So that's my story. And gosh, I'm going to put up a shot of this because it's really a good fit for something of this nature. This one-to-one tack that fits right on the front of the engine on that little stub. But I'm sure there's quite a few of them out there on this older equipment. I can't be sure. And that is a build-up. This thing was perfectly clean when I need to. I need to look at that, see what it takes to get that black off of there. Just build up on the. Again, this tack, you pour some oil in, it runs in oil, engine oil, basically. But I've been using chain bar oil on it, and because every time I take it out, the last couple of times with chain bar oil in it, it's a little thicker and stuff. It seems to be fine. But the Detroit engine oil is what the alternator runs into. The alternator is oil cooled. Well, that's it about this tachometer. It is ready to be used. Again, I'm very pleased with it. Your comments are welcome. Questions, welcome. I think this tack works great. It works so much better than the original. So put a like if you'd like. I would sure appreciate it. And subscribe. Ask questions. Everybody around here does. Why don't you? This is August Allen, and I will talk to you later about what's going on with the bus. Good night.